สวัสดีค่ะ
Hi everyone, thanks for joining me once again. My name's Peter and you're watching Thailandbound. I talk about all things Thailand. Right, it's been a while since I've done an interview with anybody. I've got a great one lined up for you today. I've managed to get hold of Tim Newton. If you haven't heard of Tim Newton before, he runs a very, very good news channel right here in Thailand. He's based in Phuket. The channel's called TNT. He uploads daily. I'm subscribed to his channel. It's a great resource of news here in Thailand. I'm going to bring him straight in because I don't want to waste his time. I don't want to waste your time. Let's say hello to Tim. Hi Tim, thanks very much for joining me on my channel today. It's actually, the pleasure's all mine. You're one of the few people on YouTube that I constantly watch. I watch just about every episode. How's life down there in Phuket at the moment?
Well, it's glorious. Another perfect day here, about 32 degrees. I mean, it's 32 degrees every single day of the year down here. Sure. The only questions we need to ask is it raining or is it not raining? But I haven't seen a drop of rain for about 3 months here. So we're right in the middle or probably at the end of the hot season, and the rain should start in the next couple of weeks.
Do you suffer from the pollution down there in Phuket like we get here in Bangkok and occasionally down there in Patia as well, or not?
Not really, but we probably get about a third of the levels of pollution you'd get. Most of it, the same here, is coming down from the north. The situation up in Chiang Mai, northern Thailand this year has been just extraordinary, and I think it has broken the will of a lot of people. It's affecting a lot of people's health, and it's affecting a lot of people's businesses up there. I'm not sure if they're going to recover quickly. The last thing they need, of course, after all the problems we've had with the pandemic. But no, we never really get above. They've got good, which is green, and then yellow, which is moderate. It never gets any worse than moderate here, so we're pretty lucky.
Yeah, you are very lucky, because I've taken to wearing a mask now when I walk along Sukhumvit. Nothing to do with COVID. It's just if I don't wear a mask, when I eventually come home, I can feel I've got a tickly throat. So it does get very bad sometimes. But anyway, enough of the weather.
Imagine if you're in Chiang Mai.
Yeah. Oh, well, a lot of the Thais, they move out for the month because it's just too much, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah. So, okay. So maybe next move for me, Phuket. I have been there a long, long time ago, but the pollution here is, it's quite difficult at the moment. Right. Okay. So before we get into the main meat and veg, as they say, I'd like to clear an elephant out of the room, because the one question, Tim, and I have asked you off camera, if I can ask you this, as you know, the one question that all my viewers would ask me, and they wouldn't let me, they wouldn't let me off with it if I didn't ask you, is the big question is, why did you actually leave the Tiger?
Okay, well, the Tiger is a company that I started back in 2016 as a little radio FM station, just like, what's his name? The guy that runs FM 103. Anyway, that was an inspiration to me to start a little radio station down here. And it sort of grew like Topsy until it was getting 12 million clicks a month. And we sort of were just chewing on the heels of the Bangkok Post as the #1 English source here in Thailand. But I mean, honestly, it's sort of got to a stage where a lot of people keep on asking me that question. I understand their interest. I think I'd like to get a T-shirt made saying, "Don't ask me about the effing Tiger." But a lot of people do, and I appreciate that people are interested. Look, at the end of the day, I was the oldest person there. I had some more conservative views about the way the business should be run. They wanted to take it off in an e-commerce direction. It just became increasingly fractured between myself and the board. It became clear to me in the middle of last year it was time to move on. I sort of told everybody, I gave them a 2 months notice that I was going to leave. I don't think any of them believed me, but at the end of July, I did leave. I'd sort of stepped off camera about 2 months before then to let the younger people sort of start to get used to doing the programs without me there. And then I walked out. I have to say that there's nothing more sinister than that. It was really just a disagreement in the way that the business was going, and I didn't wish to be part of its future.
your current channel, to anybody who's been living on the moon, Tim's channel, like I mentioned at the beginning, is TNT. There will be a link in the description below. I suggest you subscribe to it, bookmark it, keep it. I watch it just about every day, and I'm not just saying that, Tim, because you're a guest on my channel today. I really do. What are you happier now that you're down in Phuket? You seem to the channel seems to have really taken off. How long has it actually been? Is it about 6 months or a bit longer you've been on your own now?
Yeah, it's about 6 months. And look, I mean, when I'd left the Tiger, it was a bit fractured there for a while, and I panicked for a few days. Oh my God, I'm 63 at the time, and I'm living in a foreign country. I don't have a job, and luckily, a few things came my way. I decided to start a YouTube channel. I didn't know whether I'd get 2 viewers or whether I'd get 2,000. But I decided I was sort of going to do a bit of a news analysis thing each day. And I actually watched my first program the other day, something I have never done before. And I looked at it and I thought, well, it really hasn't changed much. The idea of what I wanted to do is looking at stories and making a bit of a snide comment here and there where it was warranted, picking up mistakes in the media, might just be a simple spelling mistake, whatever. And it hasn't changed much from then. It's still about 15 minutes long. We've tried to make it a little bit longer and a little bit shorter, but we've settled in that 15-minute space as something that I can cope with, and something that seems to be what people are looking for the average time. And I mean, if it had to go on much longer than that, there's not that much interesting news in Thailand every day. But I think that's about right. But yeah, I'm 1,000% happier. I mean, 99% less stress. I don't have any staff to run. I've got 3 cats, but that's no stress at all. I'm living on a tropical island. I've got everything I need. I've got a 7-Eleven 100 meters away, and I've got Food Panda, and I've got lots of friends here. So I've got everything I need. I'm still got ambition. I've got drive. I'm lucky to have my health, and I'm loving the life. And very appreciative and grateful that I'm actually able to do something I love and growing the channel. Heaven forbid, Pete, you can imagine us telling our parents, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm going to be a vlogger. I mean, they would have taken us to go and see the doctor. But I'm loving being a vlogger. And it's an interesting situation. Got to get used to talking to an audience, engaging with them. They're not all nice, but that's an interesting dynamic. But I'm getting used to that as well.
It's a great place to be, isn't it? You're actually, it's a cliche, but you are living the dream. Like you said, you're living on a tropical island and you're doing what you enjoy best. There's not a lot of people around the world can say that they actually go to work every morning with a smile on their face. I can tell you from what you've said, from a viewer's point of view, me, myself, the time of your uploads are perfect, because I'm not somebody who likes to drag on for 45 minutes, unless it's something that I particularly want to watch, something I've been looking for, like an interview, for instance. But the 15 to 20 minutes for me personally is perfect. And I think just as a bit of input, I think if it was longer than that, you might start to lose interest from some people.
Well, it's interesting, and I'm sure you're the same, where you look at your program, you're doing the same thing sort of each week, and obviously the topics are different, but you sort of think to yourself, what can I do to make this better? How can I get more viewers? And I came up with the brilliant idea, the cunning plan, that we'd do it live every day rather than recorded as it is now. We'd do it for about an hour, and I'd have a co-host, and I got this young guy called Nick, very good, 18, smart, young face, different ideas. And I thought, this is really going to kick things along. The viewers hated it. And I could see within the week the numbers were just going blah, 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 blah. So luckily, we've got that instant feedback from both the viewers and all the statistics. So I decided very quickly, well, we'll do that for a week. We stopped, went back to the old program, and it took me a month to get the numbers back up again. But here we are. So you do have to try some new things.
Well, I went back to the UK for a month, so maybe that was a month that you went live, because I didn't actually see any of them. So
you missed everything.
Nothing. Okay, well, maybe I would have been one of those who didn't watch anyway. But, again, Tim, I'm going to say this again, because it is absolutely true from my point of view. I do like to listen to a little bit of Thai news, not too much. And I've gone through all the news channels that I think might be interesting. And some of them are not bad as well. There's about 3 or 4 that are pretty okay, but I really, again, I'm not saying this because you're on my channel. I really do put you at the top of the pile because the news is condensed, it's current, it's up to date, it's not too much, it's not too little, and you check your facts. But something I'd like to ask you from a kind of just from a personal viewpoint. Now, you do these uploads every single day, I believe, Monday to Friday. I don't think you do them at the weekend, do you?
No, I do an hour-long show. We do a live program on Saturday. So we actually have a program every single day of the week coming out. And they all come out at 9 a.m., every single program.
Exactly.
But, so 5 days a week for the recorded news show.
Right. So what my question is, because you've just answered half of it, you said the upload goes out at 9 o'clock in the morning. So what time do you wake up every day? Because those, I tried to do something similar when I was in the UK, gathering news stories. I found it too much work, and it was only once a week, and it got dated quickly. Obviously, you do it on a daily basis. So what time do you have to kind of get up and get in front of the computer and get these stories and put them together so that you're ready to record at 9 o'clock and upload for a little bit later?
Well, I arrive at the studio at around about 2 a.m. I've got 3 producers and 4 writers, and I spend about an hour in hair and makeup. No, look, I get up routinely, and I don't even need an alarm. I wake up at 6 a.m. exactly. I'm in and around the kitchen by 10 minutes past 6. I'll go through this in gynecological detail, if you like. And I've got the usually YouTube on, listening to the BBC, catching up with the American news, just getting a bit of a what's happening in the world feel. I'll cook my breakfast. I do my own breakfast every day. Then I'll sit down and I'll start combing through all the Thai news, specific Thai news, and I do a very broad search. Also, the day before, if I'm driving around or somebody sends me something, I usually start off the day with 2 or 3 things already. But after going through everything, I decide I'm going to choose this story rather than that, or this is a good follow-up to a story I did yesterday. That's a nice thing for the end. It's an animal story, or it's a bit funny or something. I always try and make sure I've got something from like Patia or Chiang Mai and Bangkok. I don't want to focus on Phuket news. We don't. No. So I want to try and make sure it's very national in its perspective. Sometimes, particularly this week, for example, there's some good regional stories. So we had that, sort of Taiwan thing. So I was doing a little bit of that. And we'll always do the big regional stories, but nothing really beyond the region. So then I've then got my trusty iPad, and I start loading the stories up on that from the actual publishers, their actual websites. And I circle things and tick things and underline things that I think need to be referred to or highlighted. And I'm then recording the program by about 7:30. I finished recording about 8. And this is a problem with recording. When you're recording a program, you've got a safety net. You've got a trampoline under you. In other words, if you make a mistake, you can go, and you can go back and start again. When you've got that in the back of your mind, you will find you will make a lot more mistakes because you know you can. And when you're live, I find I don't make any mistakes at all. But when I'm recording, I always make lots of mistakes. It's a bit of a tip. If you can do it live, all the better. But of course, there's other stresses involved there as well. Then it takes about half an hour to edit it and top and tail it and make sure the ads are in there and stuff. And then it takes about half an hour to do the thumbnail, the upload to YouTube, check all the SEO and the tagging. I mean, all that effort, that last half hour is what's going to make the program work on YouTube or not. So you need to focus as much on that stuff as you do on the actual program. And then by 9 o'clock, I walk away, all that's done and wrapped up until the next day.
Brilliant. And what gives you the most satisfaction when you've done it? Is it the fact that you've actually done it successfully and it's come out okay? Or is it that when you look at the comments, if there's a lot of positive comments, is there anything in particular in the whole process that gives you the satisfaction?
Well, I mean, obviously, you get the days where you get really good high numbers, and that is the satisfaction. That's the audience applause. Some days you mention something, you may mention it completely innocently, but the listeners or the viewers, they really focus in on something that you didn't expect. Today that happened, for example, and the whole comment section's full of one particular topic that was not intended. It was like a passing comment. So you learn from that. You just got to be quite careful what you say and think about how the audience is going to relate to that. And I do spend a lot of the day. I check every comment. I respond to a lot of comments, because when it comes to YouTube, it's that engagement that actually builds your channel. So YouTube is not just doing a few dances in front of the camera and uploading it. There's a lot more to it, including the follow-up work of engaging with your audience. And you can't argue with them. I mean, if they believe something and they say it, you've got to go, well, okay. I mean, I have my own rules, and I'm sure I'd be interested in your comments, Pete, about this. But when it comes to commenters, I don't mind them attacking what I'm saying. I don't mind them attacking what other commenters are saying, the content of their topic. But when it comes to personal abuse, don't tolerate that at all, and they get immediately banned. So zero tolerance on that. I learned that in my previous employment, that if you just let that fester, it just makes the whole thing unmanageable. And I've got a really good group of followers, and they sort of know that they can go so far and they can, tackle you on any topic and are free to do so. But when it gets personal, it's off.
Well, I kind of handle it in much the same way as you do, but the problem I have, because of the nature of my channel, a lot of the subjects that I cover, I tend to get a lot more abuse, you could call it, verbal abuse, than your average YouTuber. And what I tend to do, when I started my channel over 3.5 years ago, if somebody attacked me personally, I would take the time and send them a lengthy email and try to explain them, and they'd just write back and say wanker. So, you can't win, like you said, so I spent 2 hours, and to an international audience, a wanker is not a particularly pleasant compliment. It's not a compliment. It's not a very pleasant thing to say to somebody. For the Americans, it's kind of like on the equivalent to a jerk. But no, like you said, it's pointless. You can't engage with people who are so negative. But if somebody comes on and says, I don't like the time of the live streams because I'm here and I'm missing out, I'll take that on board and I'll take the time to explain to somebody. But if somebody just comes in and personally abuses me like you've just said, I just cut them off at the ankles, banned, blocked, submit it to YouTube. That's the end of it, because you cannot win.
Yeah, that's right. I agree.
Do you, when you're out and about, do you have, well, Phuket's you are in a bit of a bubble down there, no disrespect to you, it's an island obviously, but when you're out and about, do you get recognized quite a bit, or is that something you like, or when you're done, do you prefer your personal space is your own time, or how do you think about it? How do you handle it?
Well, I've been doing this sort of YouTube thing for not only the last 6 months, but 4 or 5 years before then. And I do get recognized, and a lot of people come up and say, oh, you're the YouTube guy, or you're Tim, and they come and say hi. And I'm always very happy to say hello to anybody. In Bangkok a few times, because I used to work up in Bangkok, I had a few occasions where I did feel a little bit unsafe, where they sort of pointed at me when you're that guy, and I disagreed with what you said, and they sort of come at you, and you go, well, this is not the time or place. So, look, I have to say, I probably get 3 or 4 invitations to different events and openings and functions every week. I have a policy now of I don't really go to any of them, because I sort of get a little bit, I'm sort of over having that same conversation with everybody, including why did you leave the Tiger?
Exactly.
I think they sort of see enough of or hear enough of me every day. I don't really. But look, when people come up in the supermarket, and I've got checking out the cat food, and they're sort of coming through the same checkout counter, I'm happy to have a chat with people. But I don't really invite it. I don't do fan meetings or anything like that. So I'm quite happy when I turn the camera off to leave it off.
And what about when people contact you? And I know this will happen, but without asking you, because it happens to me. What about people who write to you and say, "Hey Tim, I'm in Phuket. I'd love to meet you. Let's meet up for a drink. I'll be there for a week." How do you handle that? Because myself personally, I will meet people if I've got a free schedule. But what some people don't understand is they think you're just sitting here in Bangkok in the day doing nothing, and then you're out every night partying in Nana Plaza. They don't understand you've actually got a life, you've got commitments, you're working on YouTube, you've got things you do, and you can't always meet people. So me personally, I do meet people, I enjoy meeting people, but it's not always possible. And sometimes people get a bit funny with me. They think I'm avoiding them. I had a guy today, and I kept putting him off, and then finally I thought I just can't fit him in. And I wrote to him and politely said, "Look, I just can't meet you today. I'm so busy." And his answer back to me was very abrupt, as if to say like he didn't kind of believe me. Do you get a lot of that where people invite you they want to come and meet you when they're in Phuket?
Yeah, everything from selling me Amway to I've got a great business project for you, or I want to come and talk to you about one of the things you were talking about last week. And I usually politely say, and it's true, that I'm sort of too busy. If they're persistent, or if they've got something interesting that maybe I am interested in, I'll carefully do that. But this week, for example, I've actually had, and look, it doesn't happen often, but I've had 2 death threats come through on emails. Yeah.
Death threats?
And yeah. I was covering a story about some alleged human trafficking in Patia, actually. And I did end up with some death threats from it. And that is a bit of a surprise when it happens, and it has made me modify what I was going to do over Songkran, and made me a little bit more careful about going and meeting people, because at the end of the day, I don't want to end up on the bad end of a fist or worse, just because I do a YouTube channel. So a bit like you, I mean, from time to time, we're talking about controversial topics. And just because you're talking about the topic doesn't mean that you either own the topic or like the topic or endorse the topic. You're just talking about it. But people then, if they disagree with it for whatever reason, and clearly they disagreed with this topic I was talking about or reading about the other day, and they attack you verbally, and in this case made some fairly outrageous threats. So it has made me a little bit more careful about my security. It's not just me, it's my house, it's the people around me, and I don't want to sort of upset the apple cart.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, I've got a bit of a theory on this myself. I tend to believe that the people who are verbally threatening you, who are threatening to do some damage to you, sending you anonymous emails, that sort of thing, I think those people wouldn't actually do anything, because they're basically keyboard warriors. They're probably sitting in a dingy room somewhere, and they're just sending out threatening emails to everybody. The people you'd need to be aware of are the people who don't say anything. If you're, like you say, you're out at night in a bar or something, and somebody spots you who isn't keen on being friends with you. Thankfully, the only thing I've had done to myself, I had anonymous letters sent to my family in England saying that I was doing all sorts of unscrupulous things here in Thailand, but it is my family, and they just binned the letters. So so far so good, touch wood.
Pete, just in regard to that topic, is that we are sitting here with our faces hanging out on the TV screen for everybody to see, and they know our names. In some cases, they have a rough idea where we might be living. And when we switch that around, all the people that we're talking to are mostly anonymous. Maybe 5 or 10% of the people actually use their real names when they're commenting. So I think that is a problem, that we don't know who they are, but they know who we are. And it's particularly galling when people make some very personal remarks and they're hiding behind these anonymous profiles. Apart from just being difficult, I think it's also cowardly. But that's the situation we work in, so we just have to get around it and get used to it.
You either put up or shut up, as the old saying goes. You just have to get on with it and try your best not to upset anybody. One of the another quick example, I know the interview's about you, but just very, very quickly, I had a guy who was abusing me in the comments, and I abused him back, and that backfires.
I never fire back at people. If they have a go at me, I never fire back at them, because then I'm probably giving them what they want, and it's also against really the policy of my channel. Don't make personal attacks. So I never go down that track. I used to, but I've sort of become a bit older and maybe wiser, and I never personally attack them anymore.
To be fair to myself, I was new to YouTube. I hadn't got any experience. I've learned along the way. It's been 3.5 years now, and I operate in a totally different way. But I'll tell you what, let's move on from this kind of troll subject now. Let's talk about you again. So what's your background actually, Tim? If it's not too personal, how did you end up in Thailand? Don't say you came on an aeroplane like most people say, but what's your background in obviously Australia, and then what brought you to Thailand? What made you decide that you actually wanted to be an expat and live here full time like I do?
Well, I came on an aeroplane. It could be a half-hour answer, but I'll try and sort of pot it as quickly as I can. So I used to work in media and events back in Australia. I used to do news reading on a radio station. That's sort of my news background, and working as a producer on a radio station. Got to a stage where I'd had a few bad business deals, and I was sort of in my early 50s and deciding, well, what am I going to do? Will I be able to afford to retire in my own country? And I really sat down and thought, this is going to be difficult to live any sort of lifestyle. Maybe I'll look at somewhere else in the world. Now, I'd been to Thailand before. A lot of Australians love coming to Thailand. And I decided to move to Phuket, because it's got the beaches, it's got the Western fix if you need that. It's got an international airport on the island. It's got rainforest, it's got great food, and it's got a large expat community. As it's worked out, it's delivered on everything I was hoping for. First day I arrived here, I really had nothing except hope and, the need to get a job. And I rang up the first radio station I could find on Google, and gave them a call and said, look, I've done a little bit of radio. Can you start tomorrow?
Really?
So
who was that?
And this is the Phuket News, a company called Class Act Media. And I was on the 89.5 station the day after I arrived.
Wow.
And I spent 5 years with them. Then I decided to do this Tiger thing myself, and started off as an FM radio station. I then had some people, some business partners come and talk to me about sharing their experiences and turning it into a national news channel. For the time, it seemed like a good idea. Anyway, I did, and Tiger grew into some sort of monster, much bigger than I ever thought it would become. And then it was at the end of July last year that I decided to step back, and I've now only got one employee, and that's me. That's it in a nutshell. But I'm very happy that I moved to Thailand. I've been back to Australia twice. I won't go back and live there. I feel like I'm a tourist when I go back there now. And there's a lot of things I love about Australia. Of course, I'll always be a proud Australian, but I now live and work as an expat here in Thailand, and I love a million things about this country. There are a lot of little annoying things that I worry about from time to time, but once you get over those, the big picture things like lifestyle, weather, cost of living, opportunities for travel, ability to do business. I mean, they're all here, and all the other annoying things I can sort of, work around. But every day is a bit of an adventure here, and I still enjoy that adventure.
Well, if anybody ever gets a bit fed up here, they've only got to go back home and stay there for a month. That's exactly what I've just done. I was here for 5 months. I went back for a month to sell my house, and what a wake-up call that was. I was so glad to get back. What I now call this is home for me. I'm in Bangkok. This is home. Okay, so great. That's very interesting, Tim. So what kind of challenges do you face? Because your channel is obviously totally different to mine. I've got my own challenges. What sort, as a news presenter, a YouTube news presenter, what kind of challenges do you face? Because I know Thailand's, you've got to be really careful what you say, because the libelous laws are so strict here. We've all heard the stories of guys who have been put on aeroplanes and told they're never coming back here again. So is there anything that kind of worries you when you tell the news, or?
I think, well, firstly, the opportunity I have each day is that, and this used to happen with when I used to be a FM newsreader back in Australia, that every day that you walk in, there's going to be things to talk about. I mean, the news is always going to be there. I mean, some days there are slow news days, and other days you just don't have enough time to cram everything in. But essentially, when I wake up, I know there's going to be things to talk about. When it comes to Thailand's libel laws, I mean, there have been journalists in this country, and we can name them. There's Andrew Drummond. We know them all. And look, they've pushed the envelope. And they've pushed the envelope because, I don't know, maybe they believed they were better or they had the right to be able to air the things that they did. But at the end of the day, we are guests in this country, and I'm quite happy to walk up to that grey line. After working in the news for 5 or 6 years in this country, I know where it is, and I'll come up to the line and I'll push it, but then I'll step back and I won't step over the line because I want to stay living here and I don't want to be in a situation. I mean, I even went to a court case with one Australian journalist working here in Phuket about 5 years ago, and he pushed that grey line and went too far. And at the time I said, look, just go to, was the Navy at the time, and just apologise and the problem will go away. No, I'm right. And that's all very well believing that. But he now lives back in Australia and I want to stay living here. So I think you need to understand the nuances of the libel laws here in Thailand, appreciate the fact that there are a few no-go areas and just work around them. There's plenty of other things to talk about.
Yeah, the no-go areas, you're absolutely right. And they're so no-go that I wouldn't even bring them up. I wouldn't even say them. You know, I think, you know, the kind of two subjects I'm talking about, really. But you talked about somebody...
What's the other?
Well, I can't say, can I? As you'll have caught me out. So I'll tell you off screen. Good one. Nearly. You gave a really good example there, Andrew Drummond. Now, I used to watch him, and very, very good reporter. So he was a guy who really got he turned the belly over, as they say, underbelly. He did stories on some people here who they're maybe not living a totally straight way here in Thailand. He delved and delved. He was kind of like an investigative journalist, wasn't he? And you're right, he got genuine death threats, and he basically had to sneak out in the middle of the night with his family, and he couldn't even board an aircraft. He had to do a land crossing because it was so dangerous for him. So yeah, I think, you know, it's very wise that you've taken that choice to kind of, as you put it, walk up to the grey line and step back again. And I think most people who survive out here, they do that. You know, at the end of the day, I'm still here, and I'm very happy here, and I'm not out to cause any enemies.
I think the situation is, I mean, a lot of these journalists, they bring their Western sensibilities and their entitlement, and they believe that a news story is a news story and it's their role to expose it. But we are guests in the country, and it's up to us. It's our responsibility to understand the way that news is reported here. And if we get into trouble and we end up with a libel suit or deported, we just need to accept that we've gone too far. I don't want to be in that situation.
No, exactly. Like you say, you'll get sent home and you'll feel like a tourist a foreigner in your own country. I mean, can you give us any examples? We talked a little bit about Andrew Drummond there, but is there anybody? They don't have to necessarily be a journalist, but is there anything that sticks out in your mind where somebody? I mean, I know something that sticks out in my mind, but somebody in particular that just went too far, and the Thais just said, "No, enough is enough. You're out of here."
Well, the one I was referring to, and his name eludes me, but he had a website, a very popular website here in Phuket when I arrived, and he used to love fighting in the comments section, which he sort of became famous for. But he republished an article by Reuters about allegations of the Thai Navy being involved with human trafficking of Rohingya people. And just posting that or reposting it, the Navy sued him for defamation. And it then became the standoff. He kept on pushing, saying, "No, I'm right. It's my right to report this," and kept on using his website as a way of keeping on fighting as a platform to keep on fighting them. And when it came to the court case, after all this hullabaloo, and I'm right and I'm innocent and I've raised money and I've got all these lawyers, and he turned up and the Navy didn't even turn up. The judge threw away the case. And he walked out saying, I won the case. And then he went to renew his visa the next month and he was told, oh, sorry, no visa. It's just some of these journalists, they just believe that whatever they've learned and their sensibilities in their home country apply here as well. And they just don't know when to stop. And that's okay. And I admire them for their tenacity. But you got to accept the consequences if you do end up being put on a plane and sent home.
Is there anything when you're gathering stories, is there anything that you'll look at that you want to tell? You think it's important, you think, well, I really want to discuss this on my upload today, but it's just too close to the bone, and unfortunately you're kind of forced to leave it to the side, not talk about it?
Well, look, a good guide on any day of the week is if the Thai media are talking about it. If they're talking about it, then as far as I'm concerned, it's fair game. And I would say the Thai media are reporting ... Now, and I'm not going to get you into trouble here, but during the COVID, there was a number of protests. And the protesters, for the first time, were talking about changes to the Thai constitution, which would affect the head of state of Thailand. And these were taboo topics that nobody ever spoke about in the past. And the name of the head of state was made, and representations and photos, and the people were sort of going, oh my God, they're talking about these things. Now, because the Thai media reported those things, I thought, okay, well, that's a new grey line that I can step up to. And it was also, I suppose, a maturing of the Thai media and a bit of an evolution in the way that those matters are covered in the media. Now, there has been a bit of a pushback, as we know, from the government, and they don't mind pulling out the Article 112. This is the Lèse Majesté article when it sort of suits them. So, again, I watch the Thai media and I see what they're doing, and if they're reporting something, then it's fair game. I will then sometimes use humour, cynicism, sarcasm, a bit of code if I want to get a point across. And I think I've sort of become quite good at that, playing that game. If I want to try and make a point or get something across that might be a little bit close to the bone, because the subtleties that I might be using would sort of go over the head of most Thai people. But I'm pretty careful. But at the same time, I think on some topics, people expect me to speak out about things, and I'll do so to an extent where I think I can satisfy their need with a bit of a wink and a nod, but at the same time not might get myself in trouble.
I've noticed those little nods and winks when I'm watching your uploads sometimes. Like you say, you'd have to kind of read between the lines and get it. You know, not everybody would understand it. So where can you see the future, Tim? I mean, you said you're about what, 62, 63, something like that? 64. Well, I've just had my 63rd birthday, and so we're near enough the same age. And so long term, where can you see? Is this something you think you can sustain for years ahead in the future, and it'll only grow, or do you think it's got a limited kind of life? Or what can you see yourself doing in 10 years' time, if you still have your health, like hopefully I have in 10 years?
I would say, Pete, that I'm very lucky that I've got good health. I've still got ambition. I love getting up in the morning. I live a sort of a lifestyle here that is sustainable. In other words, I don't go out. I don't party every night. I've got a small group of friends and we nurture each other. So I'm fairly confident, because the news cycle is changing every 24 hours, that I can sort of keep on doing this. Having said that, I mean, if an opportunity eventuates here or there, I mean, I'll go for it and follow where it takes me. But I've sort of got this groove that I want to continue going down this track. But at the same time, I also want to evolve the channel and try and improve it. I want to try and improve my presentation skills, get better at what I do, and maybe, challenge myself I've got a road trip coming up in about 2 weeks. So we'll be doing the program from a different location every day. That'll have challenges. Will I have 5G? Can I upload the program? Do I have enough internet? Are the batteries all working? So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. So I've thrown that challenge at myself. And also the viewers, they like to see more than just, the blue wall behind me. So, I would like to keep being ambitious and evolve the channel. But I'm loving this YouTube space. It's very new to me. And I've got a day job as well where I write for a publication. And I'm happy to keep on doing that as well. But, I mean, this time last year, I didn't know that I'd be leaving a job and a company that I'd started. But there I was in the middle of the year leaving and sort of walking away. But here I am now 6 months later, very happy. I made the right decision and I'm in a good place.
Yeah, I mean that's a good place to be, isn't it? Because you don't have anybody, you don't have to worry about staff, like you said. I can understand you being quite happy working alone there. I mean, you've done very, very well, Tim. You're up to what, 25, close to 25,000 subscribers?
No. Just about to reach 20,000. But
well, that's excellent.
Well, I'm as surprised as anybody. I never thought I would be at this level. I mean, literally, when I did the first program, I thought, am I going to get 3 views? And that would include my relatives back in Australia. Or am I going to get 3,000 views or 30,000? I mean, I had no idea. Now, the channel is growing slowly. The subscribers are growing slowly. And there's a lot of these startup companies have got this culture, pivoting and zooming up and 100% of this and that. But I'm very happy just to keep chugging along. And if I get 2, 3, 4% growth each month, means by the end of the year, I'm going to be making twice as much as I was the last year. So strangely, the YouTube has become a source of income. And it's become a business, and I'm treating it very seriously as a business that I work on every day. I work on hard every day, and I put a lot of effort into it. So, I'm taking it seriously, and I'm hoping I can just keep on improving. But I'm very grateful for the subscribers, and I hope that I can, do what they expect me to do and deliver a good news product every day.
Well, 20,000 subscribers in 6 months, as I said, is excellent. I've still got a couple more questions for you. I'm not going to let you go just yet. Now, I don't know if you've heard about this. It comes up from time to time. You might not have any thoughts on it, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because if you have got some thoughts, it'll be interesting. Have you heard this thing that goes around about the rivalry between Phuket and Patia? Some people say you should live in Patia, some people Phuket, and it brings all these lively conversations. What's your take on it?
Well, I come from a country that has had a rivalry, a sort of a friendly rivalry between the 2 major cities, Sydney and Melbourne. Which one's better? And it's been going on for 100 years. And coming here, I thought, oh, well, I don't have to talk about that anymore. But of course, living in either Phuket or Patia, there's a lot of people that want to compare these 2 very popular locations for expats. Sure. And I just don't think you can compare them. I mean, I'm going to say, I think Phuket's better. But people could honestly say, Patia is better. But it's like comparing chalk and cheese, because they're both very different places. And certainly, I mean, if it comes to an extraordinarily colourful, vibrant nightlife, very hard to beat Patia. But if you like beaches, well, I mean, there's 32 beaches here in Phuket. So, again, you can't compare them because they are so different. I mean, if you want to compare the vibe of the places, then I think that's another thing that's a little bit more difficult to measure. But I would say if anybody's thinking of retiring, and those 2 locations should be on your list of places to look at in Thailand, go and stay in them for at least a month each and have a good look around and hang out with some of the locals and see what you like, because both are very, very different places. And one is 2 hours from Bangkok, the other one's a tropical island. I mean, they're just so different. So I always think it's a bit of a funny conversation, and any time it comes up in social media, it's like starting World War III. But for those people that are honestly thinking about coming to Thailand for a long time or to retire, make sure you visit both and go to Chiang Mai and go to Udon Thani and go to Hua Hin. There's a lot of Thailand to explore, and there's a lot more to Thailand than Patia and Phuket.
That I was going to ask you actually. What's your opinion on Hua Hin? Have you been there? Do you like it? You don't like it?
Sure. Again, it's a bit of a one-paced place because you sort of got the beach and you got north and south, and that's about it. There's not much more to Hua Hin, but as far as a place to live, I think the vibe I sort of get from it, it's probably like a place like Patia was before the tourism boom really started there. But it's got that beach feel. I think it's got a growing and a more mature expat community. It's only 3 hours away from Bangkok. A downside, it doesn't have an airport. It does have an airport, but they don't seem to use it. And I think that's a bit of a downside. For me, I'm regularly popping up to Bangkok, and I love traveling. And on any day, I can grab one of 400 flights coming through the airport that's only 20 minutes away from me. That is something that I want. But as for somebody who's looking to retire, it's definitely an option that people should look at. And it's a bit of a growing, developing community. It's still got quite a long way to go. Unlike places like Phuket and Patia, for example, that I think are already quite developed.
I mean, I love Patia for different reasons. I was there yesterday. I went down for one night, but I don't go out to the bars. I mean, I'll like you. I get up early. I sit on Jomtien Beach. I rent a scooter, and I love it. But the thing for me, I take the BTS to Edgar Meyer. It's 131 baht on a bus. It takes 2 hours, and it's just so easy to get there. But I'll tell you what I noticed yesterday when I was there. I got back last night. Hell of a lot of Russians there, and a lot. Especially in Jomtien. I mean, there's a night market there that I used to eat there quite a lot. It's got a nice selection. You can sit outside, drink some beer. Full of Russians. All the menus have been changed from Thai and English to Thai and Russian. I couldn't read the menus. Is it? I mean, are you getting that down in Phuket, Tim?
Yeah, in spades. I've written a story about this called The Russian Revolution, and I've got nothing against Russians generally, and I think we need to separate what's happening in Russia and Ukraine at the moment from the Russian people generally. I mean, they didn't start the war. So what I've seen is, yes, there are plenty of young men, and you can imagine that some of them are trying to avoid being wrapped up into this conflict. A lot of people are young families, and all the international schools, about 12 of them here in Phuket, are fully booked out, mainly because of this huge surge of Russian people coming here. Now, of course, the Thai people down here are loving it. In the past 4 months, there's been an average about 3,000 to 4,000 Russian people arriving every single day. Now, of course, there's also a similar number leaving, but there are quite a few of them who are going up to the visa agents, slapping 200,000 baht on the table saying, I need a visa, sort it out. And the visa agents are rubbing their hand together. All the prices for their services are going up. They're paying upfront for the villas on the island. All the available rental accommodations disappearing. All the costs of everything are going up and up and up. So we've got this inflation spike, which is really centering around this very sudden surge of Russian people. Now, different places in Phuket and Thailand, different places in Thailand have these different surges of nationalities coming from time to time. I mean, the 5 years before COVID-19, of course, we had this huge rise of Chinese tourists, and the Chinese are now starting to come back as well. But at the moment, the largest number of arrivals are from Russia. I've sort of said to people, look, it's all very well. Take their money, enjoy the fact that they're coming here at the moment in large numbers, but you shouldn't expect to build a sustainable tourism business around a war in Eastern Europe. So the situation will change at some stage, but the Thais are very adept. Out come the Russian menus and the Russian signs, and whoever's coming, they are very happy to adapt to whoever is the latest arrival numbers. The big surprise, Pete, over the past 6 months, and I only say this stuff because I study it every day, is the number 3 or number 4 some months arrivals are from Kazakhstan. Now,
Is that right?
who would have ever thought that in the top 5 of international arrivals into Thailand were Kazakhs? I certainly wouldn't have even dreamt of it. But if I go to Phuket Airport today, just waiting for a flight, I'll probably see 2 or 3 flights arriving from Kazakhstan.
Any reason for that in particular? That country?
Well, look, apparently there were a few tourism organisations that actually went out 3 or 4 years ago and started promoting themselves in this particular area and in this country. Places like Azerbaijan as well. These are sort of countries that have now got very quickly growing middle classes, and they're happy to travel and happy to spend. So out of absolutely nowhere is Kazakhstan. Now, countries like the European countries, except for Germans, they're sort of up in the top 5 or 6, but UK, Australians, Americans, these are sort of falling down to the lower end of the top 10 nationalities visiting the country. So this huge change in demographics of nationalities, it's sort of changing the vibe when you go out at nighttime. We're just seeing different faces and different people around, and they've got their own sort of different cultural nuances. I mean, people from the Middle East traditionally don't necessarily go out quite as much as people from other countries. They usually travel with their families. They're very high spenders. They stay in 5-star resorts. So each nationality sort of brings its own personality to the tourism mix in Thailand. And sometimes I think there's a very short fuse with expats who have been here for a long time. You sort of don't want to upset the apple cart. They don't want things to change. And they get a little bit lemon-lipped about these different nationalities coming here. And they come up with all these typecasts, which I find just really extraordinarily racist. But this tourism mix will keep on changing, and the people coming to the country will keep on changing. And the TAT, the Tourism Authority, it's their job to keep the people coming. I think we've got some very quiet months coming up around Thailand. From now, when we get into the low season, the wet season, I think things are going to slow down quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've been visiting Patia for a number of years, a lot of years actually, and I did feel a little bit like a fish out of water because there's like you said, when you get to Patia, there's a certain vibe down there. I wasn't in the main part of Patia, like central Patia. I mean, I passed through it, but I didn't go out in the evening. I spent most of my time in Jomtien, which I love. And I just felt a whole different vibe there. You know, when I was walking at night, there were a lot of young guys putting, exercising on the beach on those frames, and they're all men of fighting age, obviously, but it's just a different kind of vibe down there. But it doesn't kind of bother me, like you were saying. Some expats have been here so long they get, as you put it, lemon-lipped, which I haven't heard before. Good way to put it. But what do you think long term with the Russians? Do you think they want to stay here long term, or they're just coming for until everything's over at what's happening at the moment?
Well, look, firstly, let's just agree, and I think we can, that if there was some sort of conflagration on our doorstep, I mean, if the UK was threatened with war and it was not of our choice and we didn't agree with it for whatever reason, we may feel the need to want to protect our family or protect ourselves and just get the hell out of there. And I don't hold that against anybody. I would certainly probably do the same thing. Now, if you believe that the war is just and right, I mean, good for you. Go out and fight if you think you should do that. But I think there will be quite a few of these Russian people will end up becoming long-term expats. As to what's happening in Eastern Europe, I don't know. You don't know. Nobody out there knows. There's probably one person that knows who lives in Russia, but I don't think he's inclined to want to wrap things up anytime soon. So I think this a number of Russian people coming to Thailand will sort of be constant, at least in the short term. But long term, I've got no idea. But I tell you what, if I want to find out, I'll listen to Tim Newton today.
That's actually a really good place to wrap up there, Tim, because TNT. What time do you actually get the uploads up every day? I mean, it probably varies a little bit, but generally speaking, if someone's as keen as mustard to watch the news on TNT, what time do they go up?
Well, usually it's always up by 9 a.m. Sometimes I'm a bit late, 5, 10 past 9, but usually 9 a.m. Thai time. And it's the same with our weekend show. It's always the Saturday live show starts at 9 a.m. on the dot. And then the Sunday Grumpy Old Men program, that's also uploaded by 9. So I've sort of got into this groove of doing 9 a.m. As far as what time people watch it, it's usually 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon.
Like me.
So, yeah, maybe I should be uploading the program later in the day, but it just sort of suits me to do it in the morning. Who knows?
I don't think you need to change anything because it's not a live stream. I've just changed the times and days of my live streams. I'm getting a lot of flack because some people can't watch them who used to watch them, that sort of thing. But when you're doing an upload, I watch your uploads generally anywhere between 6 and 8 p.m. at night when I've settled down and I have a beer. I'm ready to go for the evening. I always watch them. Then I go into Netflix and watch a movie or something like that. So I don't personally think it makes a lot of difference what time you upload your videos. I think what's important is there's a consistency there. You know, you upload them within the sort of same half hour every day, and then people know.
Yeah, I agree. I think if anybody wants a hot tip for YouTube, consistency is the main thing. That there would be, I don't know, 10,000 people starting a YouTube channel today. And I'd guarantee that by the end of the month, 999,000 of them would have stopped because I'm just not getting the viewers. You've just got to be absolutely consistent. Just get up every day, or if it's every week, just make sure you get the program out on time, nurture that audience, work with your audience, respond to your audience, and respect your audience, and just do it every single day or every week if you're doing a weekly program. But just that's the word, Pete, consistent.
It's a treadmill for sure. I mean, I went 18 months every day. Like you say, it's like a job, no money. I always laugh. It always puts a smile on my face when I bump into people and they say, I'm moving out to Thailand. I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And I'm like, yeah, and what are you going to live on? And it's like, well, YouTube? No, you're not. Do you come across that very often, Tim, where people are planning this big YouTube channel?
Yeah, look, a lot of people sort of stop me and want to talk about their YouTube aspirations. Another tip, I suppose, apart from being consistent, is just find a niche. Don't try and do that because the BBC and NPR and the ABC in Australia, they cover everything. You got to find a niche. Find something that you can grab that little target audience. And from around the world, you'll find enough people to make your YouTube channel work. Find a niche, stick to it, educate yourself about it, and just do it consistently.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree with you, Tim. Totally agree. I put my hands up. I've made mistakes, and I've changed the way I do things. And people do forgive you if you try and bullshit your way through it. People will walk away. But if you're honest and say, "Look, hey, I made a mistake. I'm going to change," most people will let you off with a little slap on the knuckles. Right, Tim. Again, we were going to finish this 10 minutes ago, but it's so interesting talking to you. I don't think I'll get another chance for a while. Who knows if I get to Phuket, I might be one of those people who calls you and says, "Tim, I'm in town," and you'll be like, "I'm busy." Don't blame you. Tim, it's been excellent. I've really enjoyed it. I'm sure you're going to read the comments when this comes out a little bit later on. Is there anything you'd like to end with before we go?
No, look, I just really appreciate the time, Pete. I appreciate the work that anybody does on their YouTube channel. Look, I mean, there are some channels that come, say, out of Patia that don't beat a drum that I'm particularly interested in, but I acknowledge the work that goes into these programs. And I understand there's also a need for a lot of people to find out what's happening there. So I think that's the great thing about YouTube. It's got such a diverse and wide community. And I would like to think that people are, open-minded to see that there are quite a few different views. And there are millions of channels on YouTube. And I know how much hard work it is. So I acknowledge your work and I acknowledge the work of everybody else who's giving it a go. But I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with your audience, and I hope I've come up to scratch.
Tim, honestly, the pleasure's all mine, and I'm sure this is going to come across great. And I'll be watching the comments very, very closely, like you will do. But with that in mind, I'd just like to say thank you again. It's been an excellent video, and to all the viewers out there, I will put a link in the description. Click that, and that will take you straight through to Tim's excellent channel, TNT.
And thank you for the opportunity, Pete.
Okay, Tim, thank you, and I'll be watching you a little bit later on tonight. Thanks a lot, Tim.
Okay, as I said at the beginning of the upload, that's TNT, Tim Newton, great channel. Go ahead and subscribe. There is a link in the description below. That will take you straight there. Until the next time, guys, thanks for watching this interview, and I'll catch up with you real soon.